morning. I am proud to stand here today as president of NARAL Pro-Choice New York, as a proud representative of millions of New Yorkers who are pro-choice, to endorse Ryan Cronin for state senate. There is so much at stake in this election for women and families: the affordability of health care, the continued viability of a woman's right to choose, access to contraception, and the full range of basic reproductive health care services. And there's a lot of talk right now about the critical role that women as voters will make in this election. Some predict, and I would say rightly so, that women may in fact be the deciding factor in this election cycle. So it's no surprise that politicians are making bold in some instances, desperate in others, appeals to capture the women's vote. But it is crucial that women, and indeed all voters on Long Island, look past the rhetoric and judge the candidates on their actual records and on their positions on the issues that will affect women's lives, health, and futures most. It's important to take this decision seriously because there is so much at stake. Ryan Cronin truly recognizes the critical importance of a woman's right and ability to access basic health care, including contraception and abortion. He understands this is not only a women's health issue, but a core pocketbook issue in tough economic times. It's an issue of the well-being of women and her family, and a key to ensuring that women can participate equally in our society. It's one of the most important reasons is that Ryan supports the Reproductive Health Act, because he knows that the right to choose, a woman's ability to make these personal, private medical decisions, is not guaranteed on the federal level. That we are in fact just one Supreme Court justice and one election away from a time when Roe versus Wade may no longer be the law of the land. Ryan gets it. He gets it that New Yorkers, including voters on Long Island, are overwhelmingly pro-choice, and that we expect our state laws and our elected representatives to protect our health as well as reflect our values. Now, let's do a contrast, because it is such a stark one. When you look at Ryan's opponent, the very long-time Senator Cronin, who currently chairs, ironically, the Senate Health Committee. After 35 years in Albany, it appears that Cronin is the embodiment of an entrenched, out-of-touch politician who doesn't seem to care that his actions have a profound and negative impact on the women of his district and across the Empire State. For years, Cronin has stood as a roadblock, an absolute barrier to so many positive bills that would make life better and more fair for women in New York. The fact that he is chair of the Senate Health Committee, and therefore has the ability to control which pieces of legislation go forward and which never see the light of day, makes his anti-choice, anti-woman record all the more troubling and all the more dangerous. Throughout his time in Albany, there's a long list of the things that Cronin has blocked that would ensure a woman the ability to make these decisions that are so critical. He's voted against attempts to improve access to preventive health services to prevent unintended pregnancies, prevented college students from getting emergency contraception to help prevent unintended pregnancies. The list goes on, prevented lower-income women from having a full range of reproductive health care options, prevented the very fundamental right to make these personal private decisions from being encoded in our state's law. The people of Long Island deserve better. The people of New York deserve better. So on November 6th, I urge Long Islanders to get the facts, understand what's at stake in this election, and I urge you to vote like your health, your life, and your future depend on it, because they do.
Thank you very much, Andrea.
And now, hopefully, the next state senator from this fabulous part of Long Island.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out today. Thank you so much to Andrea Miller and to NARAL making the trip out this morning. I'm so honored to have their endorsement and to be partnering with you both in this election and as we continue to, I'm going to wait for the truck, as we continue to fight for the passage of the Reproductive Health Act. We're gathered here today to discuss the importance of women's reproductive health rights and how necessary it is that we ensure that every woman has access to the reproductive health services they need. antiquated state abortion laws that were passed in the 1970s, and antiquated laws can have devastating consequences. Since Roe v. Wade, state lawmakers have relied on federal precedent and federal rulings to secure the necessary reproductive rights. However, as we've seen in the past couple of years, there's a spike in state restrictions across the country on women's access to reproductive health services. And what we also see is that the next president is going to have the opportunity to appoint probably one, if not more, Supreme Court justices. And if the makeup of the Supreme Court is materially changed, Roe v. Wade will come under serious danger, which is why it's so important that our health laws be updated in the state, and which is why it's so important that we pass the Reproductive Health Act. Now, currently, New York's 1970s laws are weaker than the protections provided by Roe v. Wade. And importantly, should Roe v. Wade be overturned, women's health rights would be governed by the state laws that we have today that are outdated, state laws that were passed during the Nixon administration. This legislation, the Reproductive Health Act, will codify Roe v. Wade here in New York, will guarantee a woman can make her own personal private health care decisions, and especially when her health is in danger, will expand and guarantee her access to contraception, and will finally treat choice as a public health and medical issue. Believe it or not, now in 2012, women's choice is governed under the Penal Code, not under the health code where it belongs. And should we pass the Reproductive Health Act, it will move to the Reproductive Health Act, it will move to the health code where it belongs. My opponent has been consistently wrong on this issue. He has a long 35-year record of being anti-choice. And as chairman of the Health Committee, as Andrea just mentioned, he is the primary roadblock to the passage of the Reproductive Health Act. And he's allowed this legislation, which is supported by over 70% of people in New York, to languish in the Health Committee. Just last week in our debate, Senator Hannan illustrated just how out of touch he is on this issue. He said that choice is a settled matter. He criticized me for bringing it up in a debate, and he said that it was merely for political gain and has no place in the substantive policy discourse in our country. Such a statement couldn't have better illustrated just how out of touch he is with the political realities here in the United States, how out of touch he is with the political realities here in New York, and how he is not right to protect women's reproductive health choices as chairman of the Health Committee. Let me make myself very clear. I do not believe that government has a role in women's reproductive health choices. New York needs a law that ensures every woman has the right to make the best health decisions for herself and for her family. And by allowing the laws to remain unchanged, we live with protections from another time. It is imperative that we update our laws to reflect the modern era, and it is imperative that we pass the Reproductive Health Act, which will be a legislative priority of mine. So thank you again to the LIPC, thank you to NARAL, and thank you everybody.